college.
Yeah,
years.
no, I definitely encourage. Like it was, before high school, we had a youth minister who, his name was Jim Zigger, and it's very informal. The youth group really consisted of me and my brother, and he would just like take us to like mow lawns, play basketball.
Right.
And then when I was a junior,
No gathering.
no, not really.
No.
Every once in a while, he'd try to do like a thing.
Do you have like a pool table? There was no like place, nothing. It was just literally
No.
like,
It was just
let's
like-
go mow lawn. Let's go mow the old lady's
Yeah,
lawn.
can we mow this lawn? Can we go like volunteer at the St. Francis?
So
place,
it was like outreach, like social service.
It was always, I always
stuff.
feel like it was socially,
Yeah.
it was like kind of social stuff. But then that same youth minister, when I was going into my freshman year, took us to Tucson
Right.
from Missouri for Steubenville West.
What year was that?
Ooh, Out of the Jungle.
Yeah.
Wow.
98.
Nice.
98.
98.
That was my first year working for the conferences. Yeah, so you roll in from like a servicey youth group type environment where you're like helping people, and you were raised in the faith in your family. You guys never missed mass, so you have that experience as a foundation, and then you walk into what is like a hootenanny of emotion and experience, and I mean, did you have any sort of understanding of like personal relationship with Jesus at this point?
Not really. I mean, honestly, we didn't even know. I didn't even know what adoration was, to the point where I don't remember adoration because it wasn't significant to me because I had no context for what was happening.
Sure, it all kind of seemed the same.
We
I
always- yeah.
remember that experience too. It was like, what was going on?
Yeah.
It all seemed loud.
Yeah.
And
I
there was
always
somebody
remember thinking, like,
somebody
what was that gold thing?
kicking.
Like, we have like something like that.
Someone
that
was
comes out on Good
barking over
Friday.
here.
Yeah. Someone was like,
Howling.
howling, and laughing, and hysterically.
So
And the funny thing is, I don't even remember. Like, all I remember from that time, was that it was like an extended amount of time, and everyone was I remember just like, when you're a kid, I was a
Sure.
kid,
Right.
So I just remember this, like, it was quiet, and it was like, it was dark, and there was like this din happening, like this loud, like loudness that was like never ending.
Right.
But like, I've never ever detached from that kid.
Right.
Never ever detached from that person.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I'm always
sure.
looking out and thinking, where's Ike right now? Where's like 8th grade Ike
Totally.
right now?
Yeah.
Totally. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about you, but that's always who I'm looking for, and that's always who somehow like I'll be able to make contact with and just be like, hey, it's not as weird as you think it is. Like that's kind of, I feel like that's my responsibility at youth conferences, is just to be like, it's not as crazy as it looks.
Right.
Like, you actually can be like a normal, operating, loving life human being.
Yeah.
Not some special, I have some capacity that you don't have
Right.
to pull aside and pray all the time, or any of that stuff. Like, where I think a lot of the vibe that I got for a lot of years,
Right.
is that like, man, I'm just not gonna ever measure up to to those guys.
Right.
So I do feel like, I do feel like you've always had the ability to I guess like accuse yourself first. I don't know, like I don't know where that, like if that resonates with you, but like you've never seemed to like lead worship from a place of like I got something you guys don't have, when do you feel like that I mean, in a lot of ways.
Nope.
Yeah, you've got, like you said, you've always stayed right there with that, what'd you say, 16, 14, 15?
14.
14-year-old
14,
Ike
yeah, I
in
was
the
going
back
into my
back of
freshman
Centennial.
Yeah. And you know how they, for some reason we were in the middle. I remember thinking too, like there was a moment where my youth, we're just like Midwest peeps. We don't, and we're not in Life Teen. Our youth group is not Life Teen.
Right.
But we came with a group from Missouri who was a Life Teen group. And so they were kind of more familiar with this stuff. Like, but, I'm with my, with my brother and my youth minister and like 4 others.
Yeah.
And like he was kind of joining in on our ribbing of the whole thing. It's
Right.
like, oh, it's so emotional. But I remember like during a moment of worship, and I'm about ready to like just start making fun, and look up at my youth minister Jim, who's honestly just more like a friend, just
sure.
like and I look over at him and he's doing this, and I could tell he was very uncomfortable,
right?
And he was just not used to it, but he was doing it because I think he recognized that he was holding us back, and so I looked at him, I was like, I did this,
sure.
And so it was a cool moment. I remember when the whole thing was over, I was like, man, something happened. I'm not really sure. And I didn't have this monumental thing. I didn't go back and start like freaking, whatever, walking on water or anything. That was, far from it. But I do remember after the conference was over, I had to go get something from the van before we left. And they had the booklets.
Yeah.
With the songs.
Oh, yeah.
And I turned to He Is Exalted.
Yeah.
And I just started singing He Is Exalted by myself.
Yeah.
Nobody was there. I'm looking around and like, the whole reason I was there is because there's going to be a lot of girls.
Yeah, of course.
And I didn't care about anything
Of
else.
course, right.
But, there was a moment where I was like, this is cool. I'll sing.
Sure.
So I sang, and I was like, that's when I think I first made the connection. Like, this singing that I'm doing right now is prayer.
Is a part of the prayer, yeah.
And it was literally me, prayer?
Something the deal.
I think I'll do this a little bit. So
Yeah,
that was like, that was kind of the first connection.
Did you always, like, so from the get-go, was it Christian music? I mean, you love, I look, like, I barely listen to you. And I think if you were to be honest with your friends, you'd say, I barely listen to you guys too. We have an understanding, like, there's very little good, like really good Christian music out there, right? So I know you were influenced and love all kinds of, from the get-go, love it. But when you began to play,
right,
was it mostly for the church, or did you ever like go into, like you had influences, but were you playing for the church from the get-go?
From the jump I was.
Yeah.
When I picked up guitar, when I moved from Missouri to Phoenix, I moved.
Well, you were coming to be a youth minister.
Well, I was coming to do a
Rise.
Yeah. So I was doing this,
Right.
Youth Arise thing, which was this missionary training program. So
and this was what, freshman year of college? This was
I graduated high school and I went out.
Somebody was there in Missouri that recruited you. Somebody had done the program before.
No, this is the first year of the program, but
Right.
there was a couple
Right.
that was from Columbia.
Uh-huh.
One was the former youth minister at the church down the street.
Right.
And the other one was a former campus minister. And they had done a program similar to this missionary training program.
Sure.
In New Zealand or also somewhere. And so they were there. They were like the heading up the program, basically this missionary training program. Ryan and Jill O'Hara. And so I
love Ryan.
Yeah,
I love Jill.
So Jill was a youth minister. I knew her, and it's the funny thing is Ryan. I was supposed to know both of them. I only really knew Jill.
Yeah.
And so, so when I'm moving, like I'm 18. I've never been on a plane. I'm like freaking out.
But how did that go down though? Like what'd they do? Knock on your door? Did they sit down with your parents?
Yeah.
Jill just like your mom trusted Jill.
Well, no, they didn't.
No.
Yes, but a different Jill. So
Jill.
There's a family friend of ours. Her name is Dr. Jill Raitt.
Okay.
And she was a former nun, very brilliant woman.
Yeah.
Taught at the University of Missouri. She knew Ryan and Jill and had supported them in their missionary training program.
Gotcha.
So I'm like this wayward kid.
Yeah.
Don't know what I want to do. I'm thinking about AmeriCorps. I don't really have great grades.
Selling Cutco. Making that dough.
Making that cheddar cheese. $12. I'm, so senior year is about to close up.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so this family friend who's an amazing woman and has been an angel to our family. She comes to me and she's like, so Ryan and Jill O'Hara, like they're starting this program with this other person in Phoenix, and I think it would be perfect for you.
Henry Capella.
No, Bill Marcotte.
Bill Marcotte.
Bill Marcotte.
Really?
So I looked into the program, and then I applied,
Right.
and Bill called me, and like we did an interview, and he's like, "Well, you got to raise $5,000." And back then, $5,000 is like, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm like,
That's
that's impossible.
Right.
So I told my parish priest, and he's like, "Well, we can help you. We'll do some talks." Da, da, da. So I did some talks after mass, like during the announcements.
Yeah.
And at all the masses, and literally people were like throwing
Yeah.
money at me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like part of like the cool thing about
Well, they
being
knew you.
They knew me. But
You're the
yeah,
best.
no, I
No
did. I
doubt.
gave this talk, and I met with my parish priest. God rest his soul, great man, Father Edwin Cole, and we sat together, and we, he was like, yeah, I gave him my speech, and he kind of went through it with me, and he's like, this would be great. And I was thinking, get a few dollars and
Right.
whatever, and Dr. Raitt was going to pitch in as well.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, people were just super responsive. They were throwing money at me.
So
writing
had that,
huge checks.
so had that not happened, like, you're doing this thing sight unseen. You
Yeah.
trust a few people at your church.
Right.
Had those, that's crazy. Like, had that $5,000 not come,
Yeah.
like, where does Ike go from there? You gonna go to the university?
I probably would have stayed home for a semester.
Yeah.
Went to community college.
Right.
Eventually, maybe transferred to. I had an enrollment in this school in Illinois.
Right. To do what? What were you thinking about doing?
I had no idea.
You had no idea. Yeah.
I think my first major was psychology.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. Honestly, I was thinking about doing civil rights
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Type things.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was, and the class that I had done the best in and had really kind of discovered myself was African American studies.
Right.
I did it for 2 years.
We had
And,
a class in our high school called Healing Racism.
Really?
Yeah. It was
Wow.
awesome. My senior year.
That's amazing.
And it was very, like, folks laughed at it. It was definitely like, what? Come on, there's no that was the common phrase. There's no racism anymore, right? We know it to be untrue. But yeah, there was some attempts at that in high school as well. And so you were interested in those studies, but instead, right, you go out and do this missionary formation called Youth Arise North America. And pick up the guitar at that point?
Yeah, so, gosh. No, it was before then. So, like, about a couple months before I left, a few months, I bought my first guitar. And this is like...
Bought it? You had never played one before?
Never played, no.
You just...
I'd always wanted to play, and I just, I was...
Did you think you could? Like, you just thought, this is pretty easy. It's probably easy to learn.
Oh, no, I thought it was going to be really hard. But I wanted to learn.
Right.
And, I'd seen, some people in my church and other people at school,
right,
who were on the fringes,
right,
like, it wasn't a thing. Everyone played sports, like,
right,
music just wasn't a thing.
Sure.
But I was like, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
And so I bought the guitar, and I had a friend who played bass. Literally for 3 months, I played doom, 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 because I had nobody to teach me anything else.
On your acoustic?
On my acoustic.
Nice.
Probably not tuned.
Well, I won't be afraid.
Exactly. No.
You just do.
Yeah, that's all I did. But so I didn't know what to do,
Right.
It was just kind of there.
So you brought it to Arizona.
So I brought it to Arizona.
You showed up with a guitar.
Yeah, and everyone who was doing the program with me, was 10 of us total, plus Ryan and Jill, so it was 12 of us in this like apartment type thing,
right.
like.
Well, I remember visiting.
Yeah, men's and women's sides and all that stuff.
And everybody else had a guitar.
Everybody else had a guitar. Everyone else played.
Everyone.
And so that's when I started learning.
Yeah.
And then
so you had people all around that were just gonna say, "Here's how you do this chord. Here's how you play this song."
Right. So when I got stuck, I'd just go to them. And,
So who was that? Kenny Butler?
No, Kenny. I wouldn't do.
He was.
It was Tam.
Tam
had been playing for a year.
Tam
Ryan was playing.
Right. Yeah.
Mike Jetty.
Yeah.
Mike Jetty was the best in the whole house.
Yeah.
He's like, he could do anything.
Because he could shred.
He could shred.
He could shred.
They were like, oh, man. This guy, Mike Jetty, was like, what?
Yeah, what?
So, but everybody could play in some aspect, you know, and so, I just kind of started
So
learning.
you finished that year, and then you go directly into youth ministry with Bill, or where?
No, I went home. I went home, and then I went to school in Illinois for a semester. So because I got accepted to this small Franciscan university called Quincy University.
Yeah.
So, but then I got accepted. I'm like, I really want to do this. So they deferred my enrollment. So anyway, after Youth Arise, I went and did a semester in this small town in Illinois, and it was the worst, and I hated it. I also found out that I was really, really good at college, better at college than I was at school, high school or junior high, and
And you did study civil rights, or you did?
I studied psychology.
Psychology. Right. Well, you were doing core at that point.
Yeah, it was all core stuff.
Were you still? I mean, you were still reading, listening, praying. I mean, were you praying when you were there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I, the experience that I had at the public university, or like away from, my faith foundation. Your year at Youth Arise really kind of changed your life.
Changed my life.
So that when you were on your own, you were still praying, even though it was a tough time.
For the half of the semester, I was a really good kid.
Right.
And prayed all the time and went to mass. The last half of the semester was not so good, and I drank a lot.
Yeah.
And I was
no way.
Absolute way. Me. This is just water. This is water. But like I'm like a 19-year-old kid, and I lost my mind. Like and I remember this is my mom. She's so great.
Yeah.
She's so funny. I was home for a weekend, and she was like, we were doing something normal, like running errands.
Right.
She just said, Ike, I know that you're not praying anymore. And I just started crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to leave this place.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, I need to go back to Arizona.
Right.
So I moved back.
So you moved back to go to school, or just to go live with the guys?
Just to live.
Because when I rolled in,
I had no plans.
Because when I rolled in,
I had no job.
It was just kind of.
I can't believe I made it.
There was a group of guys that was y'all were all really poor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, y'all were all just still kind of hanging around, gathering gear.
Yep. Gathering a bunch of gear.
Swords.
Swords. Yeah, we were into swords, me and my brother.
Yeah.
It was gross.
It was a really gross house. Yeah.
So when I first moved back.
A couple of really gross houses.
I was in 3 gross houses before we met.
But Keating.
Oh, okay.
The Keating house, however.
Yes.
I mean, that took on like a whole nother level.
That was a whole separate ecosystem.
It was a whole nother thing. Like there would be, the dishes would pile, and y'all would just go buy new dishes. Yeah, you'd be like, let's not do the dishes.
Yeah.
Let's just go buy new ones.
Or when the grass in our backyard was getting too high, to when the homeowners association,
you did what any reasonable roommates would do.
We would find a friend who has a horse.
Who owned a horse. You got a horse.
Like, just bring your horse.
Bring your horse.
We'll have the horse eat the grass.
Exactly.
Problem solved.
Problem
Nobody
solved.
has to lift a finger.
Or if you're sleeping in a room that the window breaks, don't fix the window.
Don't fix the window.
In
fact, don't even put cardboard over it.
Don't put just
close the door.
Yeah.
Close the door. Put towels underneath when it gets cold, and just sleep in the living room. Easy.
Just move rooms.
Don't
replace the window.
Why? Why would anyone do that? Replace them. That's ridiculous.
Who replaces windows?
Don't tell them.
And pay $20.
I remember one time I did a crawfish boil over there.
I was getting to this.
And literally, and there were, this is the craziest story I've ever heard. Y'all were getting phone calls from the neighborhood because the neighbors were complaining of an odor that had been around for weeks, and turns out that the crawfish trash was just never picked up.
In my defense, I was not there for the crawfish boil.
But it was so the odor was
Jenny.
So great.
I blame
that
Jenny.
your literal neighbors, like
Smell.
the ones you're supposed to love.
We did not love them well.
We did.
They loved us well because they weren't even mad. But he literally was like, "Hey, like my kids are getting sick, and the smell is like it's like literally in our house. So can you please take care of it? Like, I mean, if I was that dude, I was that dude, I would have been pissed. I would have come over and like, you guys are a bunch of chuckleheads, you know. But and then when I was thinking about what to do after high school, before I heard about Youth Arise, I was thinking about doing AmeriCorps or Peace Corps or something like that, you know.
And Youth Arise was primarily evagelization.
Yeah, it was primarily evangelization, right. And so you know, we did go on a mission trip to the Virgin Islands, which was really great. And so that's actually what hooked me to Youth Arise. It wasn't the spiritual stuff. It was the, hey, we're going to do this youth. It wasn't even the Virgin Islands. It was like,
right.
We're going to serve.
We're going to
do a mission in Mexico. We're going to do a mission. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, that's the stuff that resonated with me when I was, you know, as a high schooler. So that's the stuff that I'm into. That's what hooked me. And then when I got there, I went through this massive conversion. And so for a long time, my faith was about me and us and praying and doing all the things and singing all the songs. And then I actually read this book. We read this book, Irresistible Revolution.
Yeah, Shane Claiborne.
Yeah. And I think before then, things had been working in my heart, you know, but that book wrecked me. Like, it ruined my life.
It ruined a lot of our lives.
You know, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've been doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've been doing it all wrong. You know, it's been about like this and the this and, you know, like, I just like, that's not like, I just don't think Jesus is going to care when I get there. It's like, you know, you're saying breathe way too many times. You know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, he's not, doesn't care about that. It's like, did you love the people around you?
It's that Tony
Campolo,
Campolo, Shane Claiborne. There was something about that time. But a lot of people read it, and a lot of people looked at it, and a lot of people heard that message. You know, and I wouldn't say, you know, there were positive reactions.
Sure.
But there was a radicalness in your approach to the poor and love of, you know, you actually heard that and saw something that you could do.
Right.
And you were like, well, that's something I can actually start doing. So I remember, the early days of like, you know, I mean, we went deep into that hole. I mean, we were protesting Black Friday. You know, we wore
dashikis to Walmart.
Yeah, we were trying to
push around an empty cart.
Yeah, we were trying to find
capitalism.
ways to be Jesus followers in a time where the culture we were in was very much just a proclamation. Mm-hmm. You know, repent and believe, repent and believe, repent and believe, which is great, and that's a part of it. And I think that I wouldn't be the person, or you wouldn't be the person, like had we not had somebody saying that and preaching to us. But I'm watching a lot of folks catch up, and you have a lot. You have a lot to do with that. I mean, I feel like I feel like your voice and the way that you've used your platform. I feel like you really do want to say something to the church or just to people in general. Yeah. That they're loved and they're accepted and that sort of thing. But if you could say one thing, you know, what would that be? I mean, if it was something, you know, it could be encapsulated. I mean, I think that your newest album does a great job, you know, at really making us uncomfortable. It's, also. I mean, like but like, what is it that you're trying to, what is it that you're trying to use your platform for right now, would you say?
Well, I think my new record was a way, because I think I've always, when I've approached songwriting, I've always just thought about the people who won't be in the pews, you know, like the people who won't darken the door of a church. I've always thought about them first.
Right.
I think, but there was still a part of me that wanted to be, you know, accepted and, you know, have people sing my songs at all the churches.
Sure.
And I think with this newest record, I think the biggest thing is like every story is valid. Mm-hmm. You know, like every, I don't know, like I think that's what it is. Like every story, every journey is worth listening to and worth, I don't know, like
it has value.
It has value,
right? Yeah. Like it all has value.
And I also use it, you know, like aside from like writing for the people who are not in the church, I also had this real like I'm terrible, I suck, kind of mentality, and that was like Crooked Soul and all that stuff. Like it was just, he was like, oh, I'm a terrible
darker.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah. Our friend Greg.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I'll write an Ike song. I'm terrible, I suck, but Jesus, you're great. Da 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 da. He's like, there, I wrote it. I'm like, okay, thanks. You're a jerk.
Well, that's like,
but like,
that's like that. Yeah, that was like every talk I gave from 2013 through 14. So it's like
basically you say it and I put it in a song.
No, we said, but I mean, I think, but that again, like, yeah, we have journeyed like in through different phases and stuff together.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, and I'm just gonna say it, man. You got married, and like it's like your mouth opened up.
Yeah.
Like you find I don't know how to put it, but like Mal's giving you like some kind of confidence and some kind of like freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's.
Did that change some stuff?
Heck yeah. Absolutely.
Just a bit. Just a tad.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think. I mean, I don't believe that I was incomplete.
Sure.
But I do believe that there was something that God had for me.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I met Mallory, I didn't even I didn't expect anything. Like I was just like, just another date.
Remind me how you met.
So it was through my brother. So she
right.
That's
That's
sister-in-law.
right. Yeah.
So they had been like kind of pushing her for several months, and I was like, yeah, I mean, let's go on this date.
Yeah.
Whatever. I just thought it was just gonna be a date among dates.
Right.
And it was.
But two people you trusted.
With two people I trusted.
Were like.
Yeah.
She's gonna be good for you.
She's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I don't even think they really knew.
Yeah.
Because of the first date, I was like, oh, because like you always hear your friends, and it's an encouragement to people who are not married. Sorry, Gazia. People who are not married, look.
Side eye.
Side eye. Like people who are not married, because I would ask my married friends, well, how did you know? Like, well, I just knew. I'm like, that's BS.
Yeah,
how do you know that?
Yeah.
And so when I met Mallory, I wasn't really looking. I wasn't. I was just like, yeah, this be a fun date. She's cute. Like, that'll be great.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, oh, that's what they meant. Like, it was that. And so going through that whole process and then being married, even just knowing, from the jump, I was like, I'm going to marry this person.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of freedom. And
and that's not to say that your mouth wasn't open. It's just like, no. I think... Yeah, I think you definitely. I mean, there were always the one or two songs on the album that was like, there he is, or like that's the one, like that's really him right there. Right. I feel like your new art is like start to finish. There is just a lot of your heart there, and a lot of just your real emotion and really what you want to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it got to the point. You just don't. You're just like I was done. Like I was done. Like trying to pretend or trying to fit into this thing. Where it's like, I just want to get, like
a radio song.
Yeah. Nothing against those things, but I was like, I just think it's just not. It isn't me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm done trying to pretend like it is.
Right.
And she was a huge catalyst for a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
Some of them had already been started, and they got better.
Right.
After we met, and so because I just knew I was heading into it, I'm like, oh.
Guiding Light is
about her.
Is about her.
Yeah. And I need to say that as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to think that it's kind of a Jesus song, right? Like like Lifehouse does, or Scoot's Foot. Like no, I wrote that for my wife.
Right.
And like that's what that song is about, and I don't want it to be like. Whatever. Art is art, and it's fine. People
you can interpret it however you want.
Yeah, you can interpret it however you want. Yeah. That's fine.
You can do hand motions.
Yeah, you can do whatever the heck you want. But
keep lighting up.
Yeah, that's great.
Can we do that?
You just did it, man. It's gonna go viral. Just kidding. Anyway, it is about my wife, and this is gonna sound weird or strange, but like songs morph and change. Initially, that song was called something else, which I don't remember, but it was about my dad.
No way.
And then
so some of those verses were
The verses
edited
weren't there.
Oh, the verses
yeah,
weren't
the verses
there. Yeah.
weren't there. But the
Wow.
actually so the bridge part, there's like there's a part. It's like, I never told you how much you mean to me. You will always be my guiding light. That used to be the chorus.
Yeah.
And it was,
Yeah.
like it was, that was like that was like
Right.
chorus, and it was gonna be about my dad. And then, but it wasn't going anywhere.
Sure.
And
It was one of those dead ones.
yeah,
on
it was
the
a
vine. Yeah.
dead one. I was like, I don't want to like force this.
Right. Sure.
But then I thought about the concept of guiding light,
Right.
and I was like, oh, and it's not like my wife is my savior.
Sure.
But it's like marriage has completely changed and rearranged me. Like I like opened my eyes
Right.
and healed me, and it wasn't because Mallory saved me. It's because marriage was meant for me, and God had meant it for me since the beginning.
Yeah.
And so like the constant like giving, and we're new into this, so obviously we have everything figured out. So if you ever need advice.
Right, got it.
You're gonna start a marriage podcast, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
We actually joke about that. We're like, let's start a marriage podcast and just advise all these people how to actually be married.
The people who are married for less than a year.
Yeah.
Like, just keep moving them up.
Oh no, everybody. We'll advise everybody. Not on that, but also parenting too.
I'll probably.
We always joke about that. Like, let's start a parenting blog. We're like, well, obviously, we're like, it's just hilarious, like.
Who do you relate to the most? If you were to pick a celebrity out there right now, who would you say? I feel like. Do you feel like LeBron right now? Do you feel like Cap? Do you feel like who are you shooting for? Who are you aiming for? Who do you feel like right now?
It's a great question. It's funny that you mentioned. It's funny that you mentioned, because I do follow a lot of people.
Because LeBron is killing it right now,
He's
man.
killing it.
I am such a fan of LeBron James right now.
I relate to Kanye the most. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Just joking.
Yeah. See, he did a keynote today.
Yeah. Or whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
Whatever. Pass. I think I relate most. That's a great question. I think there's a lot of people.
Childish Gambino.
Childish. I think, like, looking at someone, well, it's funny, like, I look at, like, someone like Childish, who, Gambino, Donald Glover, who's just, I look at him in, like, in a weird standoffish way, like, I'm so, like, impressed and proud of this guy, who's just, like, man, he just makes great art.
He's just an artist.
He's
just
an
a creative, yeah.
And I love that, and even for me making this record, it was like,
bro,
I just wanted to make something that I was going to be proud of. And that maybe even down the line for people, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, a year, 2 years down the line, they were like, they went back to Shine, my new record. And they're like, man, this guy, he really went for it. People who go for it. People who are, like, I know this is like what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not going to do that thing.
Right.
Like you said, Kaepernick, like in a, like, people who follow me on social media know that I'm very vocal about social justice issues and racism. And, I'm not going to ever apologize for that. And somebody asked me in a podcast recently, they're like, like, how often do you think about those things? I was like, don't ever stop.
Yeah, no.
Thinking about it.
Yeah. Like, I remember getting on an airplane, coming back from Haiti, and having the thought that where I'm going, I will be able to forget, or not forget, but just distance myself from the situation, and like there's some. I think about Haiti, and I think about the experiences there, and I think about the people. They're still living that same thing. So like, growing up African, in our culture, in our society, like that, for me and for anybody, like even an African American,
right?
your same age is having a completely different,
Sure.
experience. Like, so, from the get-go, when you were aware, you said it earlier, like when you were aware.
Right.
And that's not something you forget or think about, or it's literally your existence.
Yep.
And so in the heightened awareness, because I think there's a lot of good stuff going on right now.
Sure.
I think it's ugly.
Right.
I think it's ugly when you see how hateful people can be or how divisive people can be and things like that. It's ugly, but it's almost like that necessary washing up of the crud that needs to happen before some of the good stuff, happens. And so you're in the midst of this, and there's sort of the mainstream. Here's how we're going to kind of address it as Catholics, and here's how we're going to kind of like go that way. Like, you never had to make a decision whether or not you were going to go the vanilla, like, I'm going to kind of teeter around it. Like, you were already built for using your platform to serve others.
Right.
But was there a point that you felt like, okay, like, here I go?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
It was August when Mike Brown shot Ferguson.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like, people are like, well, racism, it's so bad right now. It's like, it's never not been bad. It's just televised and shared on social media.
Sure.
So when Trayvon Martin was shot, I watched.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Like, why not Trayvon?
Well, because when Trayvon happened, I watched people's responses, and I was blown away by the Christians, and their unchristian responses.
Right.
And I just remember watching, and Gazia is the one. Like, my sisters, we would always talk about this stuff, and so like, I feel like she was always the outlet. But up until then, I hadn't really said much about it, even though it was like my background. It was like who I was. Like, when I was a kid, I was reading Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael and, like Black Panther, like stuff. Like, I was like super, like my graduation, my high school graduation, I went to the middle of the stage and put up a fist,
Power
like,
fist, man.
Power, what I'm saying? Like, that was, that was like ingrained in me. And then in my conversion, I was like, everything, whatever, I just, whatever. But it never went away, know, like, and then, so with when Trayvon Martin was shot, I remember feeling that rage.
Right.
And feeling that anger and that desperation and that sadness and, that same thing. It's like, this is, like, it's not like I forgot, like, you can't forget, but it's just there. But then seeing the response, I was like, what? And I do think that I shared a few things, but like,
so like, give me an example of like a response that shocked you. I mean, what was it? That's what happens when you dress like a thug.
That word.
Is that? I mean, is that was the? This is. We need to teach these young men to not behave in such a way that's frightening to us, or what was that Christian response? Because I can't remember what exactly it was, but I remember feeling the same thing. Like, this isn't the way.
Yeah, it was that sentiment. It was that sentiment of like, he had
somehow
he had
was
it
at
coming.
fault.
Yeah, somehow he was at fault. Somehow this 16-year-old kid had it coming because he wore a hoodie. Because whatever. And I remember feeling especially outraged because this man not only hunted a 16-year-old kid down, he ignored police requests to leave him alone, and yet he still is free.
Right.
And now
signing Confederate flags.
Right. And yeah, exactly. Now he's
absolutely.
He's
autographing
Confederate flags.
Yeah.
And he's went full in. And so like, here's a guy who's like, he feels like he got off scot free. And so But I think Mike Brown was so poignant because it happened an hour and a half away from where I grew up.
Yeah.
And I know Missouri.
Right.
You know, like, I know the complicated race relations there in St. Louis, especially, which is very segregated. And racism, like, is a big issue. So when it happened so close to where I grew up, that was it.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I was like, enough.
And you ended up going.
I did go. I did. This was maybe several months afterwards.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity to go to Ferguson at the one Catholic church there to lead a worship night and then to talk about racism to a bunch of white people. Me.
You.
I did the talk.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember...
and is at that point you're like behind stage, like looking at your notes, like what I'm going to say? Are you thinking of that white-haired white guy? Or are you like, nah, like I'm not, I need to say these things. Was that sort of one of the
Yeah. I don't think my talk was super fiery or revolution like
sure.
I wasn't like, militant,
Right.
but I wasn't like trying to sugarcoat.
Sure.
I wasn't trying to sugarcoat.
You were hurt.
I was hurt. And I was hurt by people's responses, and it killed me. And so
Sure.
I recently had a lady come up to me. I was at a gig in Texas. She came up to me and she's like, "You don't know me. We've met a couple times, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "I just want to say, I follow you on Twitter." I'm like, if anyone follows me on Twitter knows, like, I'm ratchet on Twitter. Like, I guess for me, like, it's just like,
It's the place to be ratchet.
yeah, like, I'm not, whatever. Like, I'm just a little bit more unfiltered than I would be, like, on any other social media platform. But she's like, "Yeah, I follow you on Twitter." And I was like, "Oh crap, this older white lady is gonna like, whatever." And she said, I haven't told you this. She said, "I just want to thank you because you really helped me on Twitter." I'm like, my sister knows I don't help anybody on Twitter.
Sure.
I ain't about
That's not
I ain't
true.
about your foolishness.
That's not true though.
But yeah, maybe you're right. But what she said was like, you.
I'm always like wondering, like, oh gosh, am I doing enough on here? Like every time I'm like, am I?
Well, I don't ever imagine people are like, I just imagine that.
But I
muted.
do. Like,
no,
people
who don't want to unfollow,
no.
they just mute, which is fine. It's fine.
I'm not sure that that for those of us who really desire to, like, if there was some way that I could hand over my privilege, if I could hand over, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's more people than who would gladly do anything, you know what I mean? Like anything we could to undo, you know, and that might sound trite. No. But if there literally is somebody who's going to tell me like how to react, it's you know. So I'm always, so I think there's a bunch of people who follow you that you challenge to action. Yeah. You know, and like if you're saying something, it's like that's important. Like, because you have a sensitivity that I don't have context for. Yeah.
And I think it's because, well, I've had to walk a lot of different worlds. Me and my sister were just talking about this. Like, we've had to navigate so many different worlds. Yeah. Like we grew up in a very, like white environment. Went to, very white Catholic church. But then we went to school, and our black friends, sometimes we felt other than because, sort of separate because, I had a girl my junior year who was not black. She was Cambodian or something. She said, "You're not," she's like, we were just talking. She's like, "Well, you're not black." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're African.
You're like,
different." I'm like, I think like she was like, dating a black guy. She's like, he's black, but you're not black. I'm like, I am though, but whatever. But it was like she kind of like voiced out this insecurity.
I can rap.
Yeah.
I can rap.
She voiced this thing in me that was like hurtful.
Right.
I always felt, and so like having to navigate so many different worlds can be a little exhausting, but also you might I do realize and recognize that I do have an ability, maybe more than other people, to like speak into someone's life. So this lady was like, you helped me. She said, you and Greg really helped me. You took the time. I know, right?
Or you're like, you follow Greg too?
I'm like, what? I'm like, she's like, you and Greg really helped me. And like, she's like, I have like never even thought of these things.
Right.
And you really helped me. And she's like, she started crying. I started crying. Like,
Sure.
Thank you so much for taking the time to help me and to like, like I got outside of myself and like, and it's just like, that was a cool thing, because people always joke about like nothing's ever solved on social media, right? Like nobody ever changes their mind, and it's like for the most part it's true, but I do get a handful of messages where people are like, thank you so much for saying, speaking your truth, and like saying what you say, because it helps me, and like people, and that's the thing, when that guy asked me like, well, how often do you think about it? I was like, this is my life, bro. Right. This is what I think about all the time. I have to think about this. Like when I get out of when I get in my car, I think, okay, do I have all my credentials? Like I have my insurance card, I have my, my license, I have everything, because I know that today, like there's a couple cops posted here and here, and are they gonna pull me over? Like.
And you don't want to reach.
Yeah, and exactly. So I have, I have my, like my, what's it called? My insurance card. My whatever, registration up here, so I'm not reaching down or anywhere. And when a cop comes and pulls me over, I pull that stuff out already, and then when he comes up, I'm like, I'm going to grab my license now. Right. And I was driving with me and my wife, we always drive her car. Her car was on the fritz, so we were driving mine, and she had to drive mine because I was going to take hers to get work done. And so we're in my sedan, which has a little worse for the wear. Yeah. And
you should see my van.
Yeah. Similar. And I tell him, I'm like, hey, if you ever get pulled over, this is something that I think about, like, my insurance card, my registration. And she didn't really say anything, and like we're driving, and she like. I look over, she had her phone out, and she was like videotaping it, and or like taking a picture, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm taking a picture so I can tell people what like your life is like.
Sure. Yeah. This is obviously something that like I'm thinking about now, like almost constantly. Right. Like, this is not the same, right? Like, this is not the same. I do not have the same experience, and I can recall moments in my rebel high school days, getting caught with pot by the cops, saying like, all right, just go throw it over there, or go throw it away. Like, I can't imagine like a Latino kid or a black kid getting in the same situation and having the same response. And this is one of those good and ugly things that's coming out that, like, I can't be embarrassed of that. I can't say like I somehow did something wrong. But how like what would you say? And this is a question that I've asked you before. Sure. But it's just like, what for a person like who follows you and is inspired by your voice, like what can I do? I mean, I'm gonna vote, like like I'm gonna vote, like I know how to vote, like I know where that goes, but like in my daily, like, is it the awareness? Is it the like I'm gonna smile the same way to every single person. Sure. Like what, like if you could tell, what I mean? Like what on the daily, like is there something, because I just want, I would love that, to know like how to, the how to, because I want to peel it back. I want to roll it back. I want to expose it. And I want to say, You know, like I'm going to operate in a different paradigm than the rest of it. Like, man, what would you say to me?
A girl came messaged me, and she was a friend, and she was living in Georgia or something like that. I can't remember. Very similar thing. Like, what do I do? Like I have these, all these people around me who see all these things. And I said, well, you confront them.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard, but like, someone in your family or a friend or whatever, like, you have to say something in those situations, because we're not in those spaces. Like I had a friend who went, she lived in Phoenix, but she went to visit some friends in Kansas City.
Sure.
And she was like, she texted me while she was there. She's like, the things that they're saying, this Kansas City, we know Kansas City. I know Kansas City. I know that state. Sure. I know Missouri. I know what happens there. But at the same time, I don't, because when I'm not, like those things aren't going to be said when I'm in those spaces.
Sure.
So she's telling me like, these are the things that they're saying. These are the things and these are not like, like podunk hick people. These are people who have prominent positions in communities.
Right.
Who have opportunities to hire, to to grant clemency, whatever it is. And like, and she's in the midst of this, hearing this like extensive racism, and I can't be in those spaces. Those spaces, in order for those things to dismantle, I can be on the outside saying, yo, this is a thing, this is a problem. But the spaces that I can't go, where people feel safe to say how they really feel, those are the times, and it's uncomfortable. Yeah, so we talked about Ryan O'Hara, right? Who did Youth Arise, and just a really amazing human being.
A very white human being.
Very white.
Like super white. Like gleaming.
And he lives
gleaming.
He lives in the whitest.
Yeah.
He lives in the whitest place.
No, not you. The other one.
So Ryan O'Hara,
the whitest, like a very white person.
Very white person, and lives in the very whitest place.
Yeah.
And Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he has 4 sons who he fostered and then adopted, right? And one of his sons is black,
right?
And I was hanging out with him a couple. I love this. I hope, because I just want to honor him, in this. And I was telling Gazia about this, and we were both kind of crying on the phone. So he, one of his sons is black, and he's so great because he's like, he goes to a black church. He's like, he just kind of lets him be him. So he put up a Black Lives Matter sign on his very white neighborhood, on his front lawn.
Wow.
And he was even saying like, somebody came to him and said like, what, like, why,
he's like,
he's like,
my son's
my
black.
son. You don't see, what I'm saying?
He
like,
matters.
And so he was like saying, like, I'm not really vocal on social media like you are. I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Stop.
Who
cares about a retweet
social media
when on your front lawn with your actual neighbors who there's no screen that's between you guys, and you with boldness like, yes, Black Lives Matter.
Sheesh.
And so like me and I told Gazia, and we were, I was bawling. I was trying to hold it together. He was telling me,
Ryan's the real deal,
and I was like, dude, that's so amazing. Like to me, like growing up Catholic, and then doing ministry in the church for a long time, and all that kind of goes along with it. You hear about pro-life. We love life. But, like when it comes to like a kid like Trayvon Martin, 16, actual living human being who you see, who like, this life also should matter. You hear, well, he was
shouldn't have been wearing a
probably
hoodie.
stealing, or his hoodie. With Mike Brown, it's like, well, he stole some cigars,
right.
Maybe. And, like he shouldn't have, what? Existed?
Yeah.
Like he didn't deserve a chance.
Right.
His life doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like,
You know, you're very active on social media. You're on all platforms. You're
Mostly Twitter.
But I can pretty much count on a story on Instagram too.
True.
Every day,
True.
I'm gonna get something from you on Instagram.
True.
Gosh, I hate and love the social media realm.
Yeah.
I feel like you've found a place to at least continue to connect.
Yeah.
Is it good or is it bad? I mean, like, are you like? Do you ever feel like throwing your phone away?
Oh, all the time.
Every day?
Absolutely.
Every week?
I mean, the funny thing is, do I sometimes hate social media? Yes. But it is the world that we are in now.
Right.
You know, like, and I do firmly, everyone, you know, people, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to, like, project. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But, you know, like, I think, you know, if Jesus were here, he would have a Twitter.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's like, well, that's where people are. And so, like, I need to go to those places. Like, he's not going to hang out all the time on Twitter. Like, he's not going to sit in his room and just tweet things and like.
Well, what is it? I mean,
send
like,
out the
do I
Zynga.
tell I tell everybody about the fart that my kid did? Do I mean, you know, like, and I'm not. Listen, I still have yet to figure this thing out.
Sure.
But like, where does it end? I mean, where does it end with the sharing and the serious versus especially
Sure.
Twitter, which is
Sure.
just such a shit show sometimes. It's all over the place. It's like, is that guy joking? Is he not joking?
Sure.
Is he serious? Man, he's passive aggressive right now. Like,
Right.
there's just all sorts of things going on there. More often than not, I'm a worse person when I hop off.
Oh yeah, when you hop off.
Yeah. When I've read, when I just think of something, man, I gotta say this.
Yeah.
And I just get on and I'm able to go for it and just put it out there and then move away and not get involved.
Yeah.
Like that feels right. Like you seem to get a little bit more involved in the thing. Do you and you feel like at the end of that, it's like, this is a good thing. I'm glad I was here. I'm glad I did something.
Yeah, I think for me, like, you know, like social media, well, I think I've controlled, you know, because I try not to unfollow a ton of people. I have started to control, like, I don't need to see, you know, your right-wing conspiracies. All I need is a couple of you. And that's fine. So I'll keep a couple of you.
I want an average man.
Yeah. So I got I have a nice little base. Like, what are y'all saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what are you all saying over here?
Right.
You know. And so for me, when the things that I'm following, especially like on Twitter or, you know, Facebook, you know, like the people who I'm looking at are the people who I trust. You know, whatever. Like, I'm following them. You know, like I'm. You know, like I'm getting
a disciple of theirs.
Yeah, I'm getting news. Like, I'm getting news,
yeah.
and I like trust. You know, for instance, when the Ferguson thing happened, you know, like I'm watching watching CNN. I'm watching, you know, like, you know, all, you know, these news stations flipping back and forth between, and then I saw a post on Twitter. Somebody had retweeted somebody who retweeted somebody who retweeted somebody, and I followed it back and I followed that person. That's literally what started. Mm-hmm. You know, because before then I was just sharing like stupid, you know, Smurf farts. You know, like nothing was more serious than that. Yeah, exactly.
We were vining.
Yeah, we were vining.
We were vining.
Like, that's what we were doing, just like hilarious stuff. And then I started. I literally, I think I followed like 30 people that day. People who were on the ground when it was happening, who literally became activists that day.
Yeah, sure.
And who have become and who have remained activists. Sean King, DeRay McKesson. You know, like, you know, those people who were there on the ground and I was getting great information from. You know, like, and literally people were like, hey, you know that CNN thing that you just saw? You know that Fox News thing you just saw? Here's the actual uncut video.
Right.
Here's what's happening.
Right.
And so for me, that was huge.
Right.
Huge, because it was like, yeah, social media can be a cesspool. Twitter can be a nightmare. At the same time, like, when someone's like, here is what is happening right now, that had value to me.
Sure.
And I still value that. And I still
I do value that at Twitter. I mean, like the Arab youth.
Right.
I mean, Twitter has played a major role in shifting, social injustices and really bringing light to things. Do you feel like in your own neighborhood? I mean, you guys, like you're whatever, I don't even know what you call it. I mean, would you say biracial marriage or just a marriage? You wouldn't say that, right? Would you say that?
Mixed marriage?
Mixed marriage?
What's the term, right?
There's a term.
There's
Mixed
a term.
marriage?
Mixed marriage?
Mixed marriage.
Biracial? I don't. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I
There's
mean,
a term. There's an actual term for it.
Mixed race,
It's
culture,
more like a person, though.
culture.
I know. Yeah, biracial. Yeah.
Culture, bicultural. Your wife's white.
My wife is white.
Your wife is white.
Yes.
And you are
Keep all that. That's
you
great.
right? Like like I mean, you've sort of with your life witnessed, to a transcending reality.
Yeah.
How do we take that to the streets? I mean, I love shopping. I love speaking Spanish when I can. I love, I want to bring people together. How do you do that on the daily? I mean, is that a conscious thing, or is that something that you guys are not thinking about when you're going out?
That's a great question. I mean, I think, for us, we're always just trying to live out the love your neighbor. We live in a townhouse, condo.
They're right next. They have a common wall.
Yeah, we have a common wall of people, and and we have a weird spot because we literally see like 3 of our neighbors. Like nobody comes outside. It's weird. There's like no kids in our little complex. It's hot though. We live in Phoenix. It's hot. But we have a neighbor, and her name is Joan. Mm-hmm. And I mean, her name is Joan, and I don't know. Here's the deal. Joan might see this, so I want to be very sensitive. But Joan, I believe, is transgender. Mm-hmm. And she. Let me just backtrack. When we first moved in, our landlords, super great interracial couple, Hispanic and white, right? The husband is a musician. It was very strange.
Nice.
It's like literally a mirror of us.
That's awesome.
They were like, we have like this guy over here. He's like really quiet, never really seeing that.
Yeah.
And then Joan, she's like the best.
Yeah.
And so we met Joan.
Yeah.
And she really was like super awesome. Like, and so she'll see me leave the house with my guitar, and finally she's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm a musician, da-da-da-da. It's like, yeah, I figured that. And like, what kind of music you play? I'm like, yeah, Christian music mostly, like travel in those realms. And that's like, I say Christian music when I'm like, I don't know what to say, and like whatever.
Right.
And she's like, oh, that's really cool. I used to play in a band, da-da-da-da-da. And she like keeps our complex running.
Yeah.
Like does like the painting and the raking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was like, hey, I want to feature you on our newsletter. So I told her about my new record.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to feature you. Like seriously, I have this great, like we love Joan.
Yeah.
So much so that she repaired something. I think she cleaned something. Oh yeah. She cleaned cut the trees above our little patio, and then like went into our patio. She told us she was gonna do this, and like cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Aww.
And so we like went and bought macaroons for her.
Sure.
And knock on the door. It was like bleary eyed because it was like 8 o'clock. She's older. She was like, oh, it's all right. And gave her macaroons. And like, thank you so much for that.
That's awesome.
And it was just like one of those things where we don't. There's who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like
Where?
as in like
how, why, yeah.
Who cares? And I even said, like, I was like nervous because I'm like, oh, I'm a Christian musician.
Right,
because
right,
Christians
right.
don't have the best track record when
Sure.
it comes to
Yeah.
difference in our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
That's just honest.
Yeah.
And but her reaction to me,
Yeah.
her response to me was so amazing. She was like, "That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Sure.
Like I would, like let me know when you're playing. Like I want to feature you in our newsletter. I want everybody to know."
Yeah.
You know,
so
like,
accepting, so
people.
loving.
Yeah.
People for
It's like,
people.
"Can I Google you?" You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Google me. And like,
Yeah.
Next time I saw her, he's like, "I Googled you. It was so great."
Yeah, like you're big. You're a thing.
It's like, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it was good
Yeah,
stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
thanks,
yeah,
Joan. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Right.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's just, like even our neighbor that doesn't talk to us or doesn't talk to anybody or
Sure.
doesn't like to be seen, like we try our best to,
Yeah.
like, hey, how you doing? And
Yeah.
he doesn't really say much, but it's like it's fine. Like it does. It starts around you to like show like we're not.
Yeah.
We don't want to be. Huddled
Mm-hmm.
inside. Like like we do that really well. Like
So
and
easy.
the best way to show light.
Yeah.
Like I think Trump is bad for our country,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? I have had talks with people who think that he's the greatest thing for our country.
Right.
And like I'm not really there to convince people that they're wrong, even though I believe that.
Yeah.
Like I guess in that moment it's just like, I mean, can we connect on something?
On
Sure.
some human level.
Can we connect on some
That's why I
human
love
level?
tequila. Because
Tequila's
everybody loves tequila.
Everybody loves tequila.
Come on.
So you can connect on
Yeah.
like
At least that.
at least that.
If people say they don't like tequila, what they're really saying is they don't like margaritas.
Yeah,
And they don't like margaritas because it's too much sugar. But tequila, straight, like you're drinking it.
Or they had a really
kidding.
bad
How
experience.
dare you? They had a bad. Everybody has.
Everybody has a bad
Everybody has like, I had a bad experience. I
You
don't
can
drink
overdo
tequila.
No, but
Yeah,
but I love that, and I think that you really do. You put art, like the culinary arts. You put art out there that really does transcend, like people. It's good art, and I think that good art leading with beauty, things like that really do kind of level the playing field.
Yeah.
It makes you approachable. It makes
Yeah.
you able, because good art connects to the human spirit regardless of creed, and
Right.
race, religion, whatever it is.
Or anything that we're doing. So, yeah, man. Thanks so much for doing what you do, dude. It's
you.
just, I mean, seriously,
Thank
bro.
you.
Like, I mean, again, like this latest album, I'm blown away. My kids are still like, I don't know. I'm like, it's cool, and they're like, I don't know. They're like, it's cool for you, Dad. Like, I don't know. I'm like, no, this is, it's really good, right? Dude, no.
Well, it's funny too because before this,
Now they're
my
like
last
13.
two-
They're 13, just to clarify.
Yeah, my
like
last
they don't
two
know. They
records-
don't know anything about anything right
Well, it's
now.
funny because my last two records were like that was the biggest thing. Is like, man, my kids love your music. And as I was making this record, I was like, this is going to be the record that blows
Kids are listening.
the last two records.
The last two records, yeah.
This
Right.
one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that they're like, I came out with a new album. They're like,
oh.
that's that's not it.
It's a little. Wow.
No, that's not it.
No, but I remember thinking in the studio, even before the studio, because I was working on this record before I got in the studio. This is the biggest deal. My first two records, my first one we did with our friend Robbie.
Yeah.
You were with me when we, first
Yeah.
kind of like talked about it.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm still very proud of that record. I did my second record with another guy named Paul Mayberry. Very proud of that record. The difference between those two records and this recent one is that I, the last two I would write a song on guitar, maybe do like a quick little work tape demo of it with just acoustic and my voice, and then I'd present them to the producer and like, here are the songs that I have,
Right.
Whereas this one was, I am gonna produce these to the end of my capacity.
Yeah.
And so the demo, some of the demo vocals or, key things, we did those.
Yeah.
Like we kept those on the record.
Nice.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you
know,
did.
and
I mean, my two favorite parts on the record is when you laugh.
yeah,
Like you're very distinctive, high pitched. Like there's no way that's anybody else laughing
Yeah.
except Ike.
yeah,
Like I love how raw it is. Like I said, I mean, it's so you. And those guys, they did an incredible job
Yeah.
at really giving you that palette
Yeah.
to work, to work within. So, yeah, it was fantastic, man. It was
Yeah.
so good.
yeah.
No, this was
Thanks,
fun,
man.
man.
Thank you.
This is so good.
This is great.
You can come back to of course, you can come back to the porch anytime. It's not the first time you've been here.
No, it won't be the last. This is
Yeah.
like second home. Yeah. I get it, Emily.
H-Town.
H-Town.
H.
Hey.